The devil himself said, I'm going to exchange some dollars for your child's life.
Do you think you're the devil himself?
You think you know the story of Jeffrey Epstein, right? But what if I told you the real truth about his trafficking network is so much darker and more shocking than you could ever imagine? What if the connections, the secrets, and the twisted operations go far deeper than anyone has dared to reveal? Epstein's empire wasn't just some sinister business. It was a web of control, manipulation, and corruption, stretching across private islands, elite circles, and untold numbers of victims. He built relationships with powerful figures from every corner of the world, and behind those smiles and handshakes, a deadly game was being played. But here's the thing. What we've been told is only the surface. The shocking facts we're about to expose will leave your jaw on the floor. And the fifth fact, well, it's so unbelievable, you'll want to stick around to the end to hear it. Stay with me, because by the time this video is over, see just how far Epstein's reach really went, and who might still be hiding in the shadows. Fact number 1. Epstein's trafficking network wasn't just about a few individuals. It was a vast and intricate web that spanned continents. His reach was so extensive that it's hard to even imagine the full scope. At the heart of it all, Epstein was a master manipulator, building ties with some of the most influential people across the globe. Politicians, billionaires, royalty, Hollywood elites, the list goes on. What made Epstein's network so powerful wasn't just money. It was his ability to play people like pawns. He used his connections to recruit vulnerable individuals, many of whom were promised opportunities that never came to fruition. Epstein's social circle wasn't just a network of friends. It was a network of people he could control, leverage, and blackmail. But it didn't stop there. Epstein's network wasn't just built on favors or friendships. He had the perfect setup, a collection of private islands, lavish mansions, and hidden locations where people could meet and do, well, whatever they wanted, away from the public eye. The most disturbing part, some of these powerful figures who should have known better were fully aware of Epstein's activities but chose to turn a blind eye. Why? Because Epstein had something on them, a secret, an indiscretion, or worse. He didn't just trap young women in his scheme. He trapped powerful individuals in his grasp, making sure they were indebted to him in ways that couldn't be undone. As shocking as it sounds, Epstein's network wasn't just about the rich and powerful. It was about the power dynamics that kept this operation hidden from the public for so long. Fact number 2. Epstein's private islands weren't just luxury getaways. They were the heart of his operation. Located in the Virgin Islands, these secluded properties became infamous for the dark activities that took place behind their gates. One island in particular, Little St. James, was dubbed Pedophile Island by locals, and for good reason. The islands weren't just a place to escape the media or the law, they were the perfect hiding spots for Epstein's twisted scheme. The remote location allowed him to gather powerful people away from prying eyes, offering them everything from lavish parties to, allegedly, even more sinister things. Here, Epstein had total control, and his guests were expected to follow his rules. Rumors swirl about what exactly went on behind those gates. Some suggest that young women were trafficked in and out of the islands, often under the guise of vacations. Others claim that Epstein used the island's isolation as a perfect setting for blackmail, ensuring that those involved in his trafficking operations remained silent by offering them a taste of the lifestyle they couldn't afford to lose. That's not all. There's speculation that the island wasn't just a meeting ground for elites, but a place where covert operations took place. What if these islands were part of something much bigger, a secret network that tied together people from across the globe, all controlled by Epstein's manipulative web? The idea is chilling, but the question remains how many of these powerful individuals were really just playing into Epstein's game. And the scariest part? These islands weren't just physical locations. They were metaphors for Epstein's entire operation, hidden, remote, and out of reach, with the perfect setup to keep his dark secrets buried. And what went on there is still shrouded in mystery. Fact number 3. Epstein didn't just rely on his own manipulative tactics to build his empire. He surrounded himself with powerful associates who helped him maintain control and ensure the survival of his operation. These weren't just random individuals. Many were high-profile figures who, on the surface, seemed untouchable. But behind closed doors, they were part of something far more sinister. Some of these associates, including Ghislaine Maxwell, played key roles in running Epstein's network. Maxwell was often seen as Epstein's right-hand woman, reportedly helping recruit young women, coordinating logistics, and even keeping things quiet when things got too risky. She wasn't just an accomplice, she was a trusted member of Epstein's inner circle, handling much of the day-to-day operations that kept his dark activities going. But the story doesn't end with her. Epstein's associates weren't just partners in crime, they were influential players in their own right. Think about the number of powerful people who had access to Epstein and his resources. He built relationships with billionaires, celebrities, politicians, and royalty. They weren't just his friends, they were key figures in his web of control. What's even more chilling is that Epstein had something over each one of them, whether it was compromising photos, video recordings, or other forms of blackmail. Epstein had a way of keeping people in line. As reports suggest, some of these high-profile figures knew exactly what was going on, but kept quiet because Epstein had made sure they owed him something they couldn't afford to lose. And what about the ones who didn't get involved in his trafficking network but still enabled him? People in the media, the financial world, and even the law, who either turned a blind eye or allowed Epstein to continue his operations with no consequences. What did they know? What were they protecting? One of the most disturbing things is that these associates weren't just playing a small part, they were the very foundation of Epstein's power. Without their support, his operations wouldn't have been as successful. Without their silence, Epstein's empire may have crumbled long before it did. Fact number 4, Epstein's trafficking network wasn't just about selling an illusion of luxury and power. Behind the grand mansions, private jets, and exclusive parties was something far more sinister, an operation designed to trap, exploit, and blackmail some of the world's most powerful people. One of the most disturbing elements of Epstein's scheme was his ability to use underage girls as pawns in a game of manipulation and control. He didn't just want access to these high-profile individuals, he wanted to own them, and for that, he used the most dangerous weapon in his arsenal. Blackmail. Epstein had a network of hidden cameras, strategically placed in private rooms, in his mansions, on his private islands, anywhere his powerful guests might let their guard down. He filmed their every move, capturing compromising moments that could ruin reputations, careers, and even entire families. But these weren't just casual recordings. Epstein used them as leverage. The stories are chilling. Wealthy, influential people caught on camera in situations they never thought would see the light of day. Epstein didn't just record these incidents for his own amusement. He used them as tools of control. For many, agreeing to his demands was the only way to keep their secrets hidden. For others, it was a silent threat that loomed over them, keeping them in line. But that wasn't all. Epstein's network wasn't just about seduction and blackmail. It was about creating a deeper, more dangerous web. Some reports suggest that Epstein used the very people he blackmailed to bring in new recruits, luring them in with promises of wealth, fame, and luxury. The trap would be set, and once they were caught, there was no escaping. The deeper you dig, the more chilling it becomes. Was Epstein the mastermind behind it all, or was he part of a bigger operation? With the power he had over so many influential figures, it's hard not to wonder if there were others pulling the strings from behind the scenes. And yet, what's even more disturbing is that many of these operations took place right under the noses of those who could have stopped him: authorities, law enforcement, and even those closest to the victims. Epstein was able to operate undercover, hiding in plain sight for so long. All because of the threats, manipulation, and fear he instilled in those who came into his orbit. Section 5. The Unsolved Mysteries and Silent Victims as we piece together. The horrors of Epstein's trafficking network. One undeniable truth stands out. There are still so many unanswered questions unanswered, but not forgotten. Despite the media frenzy, investigations, and public outcry, much of what happened remains shrouded in mystery. And the victims. Many of them are still silent, their stories untold, their pain buried beneath the weight of a system that failed. One of the most haunting aspects of Epstein's operation is the sheer number of victims who may never get justice. Some reports estimate that there could have been hundreds, if not thousands, of young women and girls exploited by Epstein. Yet, many of their identities remain unknown, their suffering hidden from the public eye. The legal battles, the cover-ups, the media silence, all of it has kept these survivors out of the spotlight, leaving their stories to fade into the background. And then there's the biggest mystery of all. Epstein's death. Official reports claim it was suicide, but the questions surrounding his death continue to haunt us. How did a man with so many enemies, so much to lose, end up dead in his cell under the most suspicious of circumstances? Was it really suicide, or was it something far more calculated, a cover-up designed to protect the powerful people Epstein had dirt on? The unanswered questions don't stop there. How many people knew about Epstein's activities but stayed silent? How many were complicit in his crimes, or at the very least, turned a blind eye? The layers of secrecy surrounding his operation seem endless, and every new revelation only raises more questions. But perhaps the most painful part of all is the silence of the victims themselves. Many of these women may never get the chance to tell their stories in their own words. The trauma, the manipulation, the horrors they endured are often left voiceless in a system that's more concerned with protecting the powerful than seeking justice. For every victim whose name we know, how many more remain lost in the shadows? As much as we know about Epstein's network, the true extent of his crimes may never be fully revealed. But the questions still linger, haunting, never truly answered, and pushing us to question just how far the darkness goes. Conclusion. As we uncover the dark truths about Jeffrey Epstein's trafficking network, one thing becomes painfully clear. The story is far from over. The 5 shocking facts we've explored today barely scratched the surface of a global operation that entangled powerful figures, exploited vulnerable victims, and operated in the shadows for decades. We've seen how Epstein's network spread. Far beyond just a few high-profile individuals, it was an intricate web of manipulation, blackmail, and corruption that crossed continents and evaded justice for far too long. His private islands, his untouchable associates, and his ability to hide in plain sight are just pieces of the puzzle. But the most disturbing truth of all, we still don't have all the answers. The mystery of Epstein's death, the silent victims, whose stories remain untold, and the powerful people who may still be hiding in the shadows, all leave us with more questions than ever. As we continue to search for the truth, one thing is certain: Epstein's legacy is far from finished. The global reach of his operation and the untold stories of those caught in his web will haunt us for years to come. And the question remains, how deep does this network really go, and who else is involved? Stay vigilant. The truth may still be out there, but it's up to us to keep asking the hard questions and demand justice for the victims who have been silenced for too long.